Hello, this is Tim from Sudden Recollection. Um, I'm going to try a segment. This is a series of videos that we've been thinking about that John really doesn't need to be here for. This is me talking about nerdy stuff and ideas that I have um, as a writer and as a big fan of various mediums. I have a lot to say about things that John really doesn't have an opinion on. There's a lot of stuff that he has to say that I don't have an opinion on, but maybe he'll do videos of those later. Um, Today, I want to talk about the X-Men. Pretty soon here, we're going to be releasing, in fact, this coming Tuesday, we're going to be releasing our top 5 superheroes of all time. And I was looking at them as I got my list together, I realized that, wow, a lot of these guys are X-Men or from the X-Men, and I always found that odd because I was never a real big fan of the X-Men comic books. I did like the movies a little bit. I liked the first movie, and I liked the most recent movie, the First Class movie, a lot. But other than that, I was never a really big fan of the comics. And if that's the case, then why are these guys all on my list? And what I realized is part of the reason why I don't like the X-Men is where the concept seemed to come from. Now, I'm not an expert on this. Like I said, I don't know the X-Men very well. While I am a big fan of Marvel Comics, that's not one that I'm really used to. I don't know what their timeline looks like, as well as with other comics. But it seems to me like when the X-Men came out, the whole origin story was getting to the point where they had to make it more and more ridiculous to make it original. I mean, they were just having a hard time coming up with origin stories. I mean, they were ridiculous at best and just bad at worst. So they came up with this concept, well, why don't we just make them mutants? And it felt like a cop-out to me. I mean, you have this group of superheroes, and they're all, they all have their own original powers, but they are mutants, and that's just their origin story. I found that to be a little bit lazy as far as the writing aspect goes. And from there, their team took on this. Oh well, we're being, there's racism and people are racist against mutants, and that's their whole thing. They're trying to tell this story, civil rights type of a story, and it works. But it's rooted in such a silly concept. Oh, they're just all mutants. That I couldn't get into the characters as a team very well. Now, another thing to point out is that on my top 5 list, there are a lot of X-Men, but none of them are the original X-Men. In fact, other than Beast, I don't really like any of the original X-Men. Cyclops I don't like, Jean Grey I don't really like, her saga that occurred. But the reason for that is each of the X-Men characters that I do really enjoy have very in-depth backstories. They have origin stories beyond the fact that they're just a mutant. And while that is a great thing, and you could do it with any of the X-Men, the problem is that's not how it was originally made. They were mutants, and that's just the way they got their powers. In fact, Marvel actually had to deal with that with a bunch of crossovers and the like. Well, they're mutants. There's so many mutants, we need to just kill them all off type of a thing with, M-Day and House of M was the event comic, I guess. It was alternate dimension type stuff, with Scarlet Witch being the epicenter of that whole event. But I like the X-Men individually, but not as a group. And I like groups. I like superhero groups. It's not a matter of, oh, I just like the individual, lone wolf superheroes. No, I'm absolutely ecstatic about the Avengers movie coming out. Justice League, the cartoons. I used to watch those as a kid. I like that kind of stuff. It's these characters that have their own backstories and have their own histories that have shaped their character, and they're bouncing off of each other, and that's what I love. See, the X-Men didn't have that for me. While, yeah, they had these personalities that differed and they bounced off of each other a little bit, they were all coming from the same place, effectively, and that place was fairly bland. Now, I know there's a lot that you can say having them as their own separate race of mutants, and I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. And if you like the X-Men, that's great. I'm glad that you enjoy that kind of stuff. But for me, I always found it to be kind of lazy. So I guess the point that I'm trying to get across is the X-Men could have been way better than they are. If it's another thing. The Fantastic Four have a very similar thing. They all got their powers from this one event. And as a team that, I guess, makes cohesion. But it worked in the sense of the Fantastic Four because they all had personalities going into the event that gave them their powers. Whereas the X-Men are a product of their powers. And a lot of them are pretty bland. And I think while this does allow for certain stories to be told, it also limits the amount of stories that can be told. You have these themes that are ingrained in the team itself, but going beyond those themes is problematic because you don't have enough detail with the characters. And like I said, I was never really a big X-Men fan, so I can't really say, oh, there's no good characterization, there's nothing like that. But you don't hear a lot of, oh my gosh, that X-Men comic book series was fantastic. One of the best, it was amazing. You do hear that about Batman, you do hear that about other characters. Wow, that was just an amazing arc. This is an amazing character. And while amazing characters do come out of X-Men, they generally really develop in their own series, So, well, that's my 2 cents. It's probably not worth anything. I'm really bad about just probably ticking off entire fan bases of people. I haven't played Ocarina of Time. He doesn't like X-Men. He doesn't like Firefly. I don't dislike Firefly. I just didn't think it was the best thing ever. Like so many other people do. And I haven't watched the whole thing, so once again, a lot of my apathy towards it could be from a lack of exposure, because I've only seen the pilot or whatever it was. So, anyway, I'm glad if you watched this video all through, and probably going to post some more like this if I get a good enough of a response of this. Maybe I'll do a video on vibroblades like I promised. Anyway, thanks.